Head of Israeli space program, the aliens have asked not to announce that they are here, humanity is not ready yet. English interview transcript by Michael Greenberg. We love first contact. 26 to 34 minutes. On December 4, 2020, former head of Israeli space program Professor HAIM ESHED has conducted an interview. In this interview, he disclosed that there is a galactic confederation, that aliens exist and have been in contact with US for years. However, they have kept it a secret because they didn't feel humanity was ready. The original source of this interview is from a platform called Isnt. It is the digital news format of one of the most widespread newspaper called Yediot Ahronot. Meaning of the name, latest news. Below is the full transcript of the interview, with comments by the translator Michael Greenberg in italic. Special thanks to Michael Greenberg for translating this very important interview into English. Beginning of the transcript. Professor HAIM ESHED headed the Israeli space program and led the EFEC satellite launch project. But it was only after he left his official duties that he turned to what really interested him, aliens. In a new book, The Universe Beyond the Horizon, he argues that aliens from all over the universe are already walking among us. Third-type encounters are just around the corner, and the Galactic Federation is delaying the publication of information so as not to cause panic. Now he tells how the aliens prevented some nuclear holocausts, what's really going on at the mysterious farm in Utah, and when we can jump in to visit black holes. It was a great start to the week. Really. On Sunday I left Professor HAIM ESHED's house in an uplifted mood. Sometime soon, for sure, we will contact aliens, they will teach us everything they know, science will leap 1,000 light years ahead, we can start traveling time-space and jump with the kids to the end in the cluster of Pleiades, 444 light years away from the solar system, much better than Holon Park, and perhaps even the solution to the Benny Gantz riddle will be found. This is the good news. There is also great news, but let's wait a bit. Patience. We have been waiting for thousands of years for a third type of encounter, and this encounter is just around the corner. Professor ESHED believes that it will happen in his lifetime, and the man is 81 years old, so you will agree to wait until the middle of this article with the excellent news. Hint? This is eternal life, but not in this body, sorry, Nida al-Hamster and Aviv Alish, not in this body. Details later on. I would not have bothered with the spontaneous burst of joy, what a burst of joy and Sunday, nor would I have stood in my tiny home garden that night staring at the sky in eager anticipation of I do not know what, if it had not been for Professor HAIM ESHED. Professor ESHED is one of the most respected and sharp astronauts in Israel, who headed the Israel Space Agency's administration at the Ministry of Defense and was directly responsible for planning and developing Israel's satellite program and launching the first satellite, EFEC-1, in 1988, with the specially developed Shavit launcher. Later he was also involved in the invention and development of Israeli drones. And the rest is history, a secret rifle. I was left with my mouth open. What about a senior pilot, researcher, and technologist in aeronautics, who won the Israel Security Award and the Chief of Staff's Award, and the aliens? ESHED is by no means a geek from the comic book store that tells you about the flying saucer that landed in his yard yesterday at noon just as he was feeding the cats. No, ESHED is perhaps the most senior responsible person in Israel in the, let's say, industry, flying things at jet speed for purposes for which silence is preferable. But in the last decade, he admits, the aliens have been constantly employing him, and in the last 2 years the business has already become inflationary, with about 6,000 reports last year of UFOs observed in the West, and with the documentation of the celestial object Oumuamua in Hawaii, about which Professor Abraham Leib, head of the Department of Astronomy at Harvard, stated that it was an UFO. ESHED can no longer resist. Even Harry Reid, the former majority leader in the U.S. Senate, has now given an interview and said, "Click on the government to publish the evidence it has accumulated over the years. Enough is enough." Until recently, ESHED actually managed to hold back, but then Trump officially set up the space arm, and the press was given a message that the Pentagon's Task Force for Unidentified Aerial Phenomena would begin publishing its findings to the public every 6 months. At the same time, American billionaire Robert Bigelow's Skinwalker Cattle Farm in Utah, a place formerly suspected of being a favorite airport by aliens, has documented several things that no amount of popcorn in the world will be enough to watch. Abnormal phenomena have now been documented on this farm, an enthusiastic ESHED. A team of NASA scientists and MIT graduates brought all the possible devices there: cameras, spectrometers, spectrographs, gamma-ray, X-ray, UV, IR, all the fields, and see things I, who have been researching for 10 years, I was left with my mouth open. Not just me. I spoke with Professor Itzik Ben Israel, currently chairman of the Space Agency, who always grinned a little, and he was also moved. What did they see there? Do you know the term portal in this context? So you see a name that appears UFO, you shoot it in the whole spectrum of cameras, you see the radiation at all frequencies, it's raging. It cannot be some familiar aerial vehicle? No. It shows clear signs of UFOs, insane accelerations, lack of gravity, 90-degree changes of direction at tremendous speeds, deformation. And all the scientists there are in complete shock. And what does the UFO do? You see the radiation bounce, and you see a shape-shifting body come out, a light coming out of it at a frequency you can't see with the naked eye. In fact, you see nothing when you look normally, but in cameras, at high frequencies, you see that body perform mutilation carnage, draws blood from the cattle on the ground in front of your eyes. What exactly did they see? Something like a cloud like that. Like drawing a ghost to children. It's an undefined, amorphous cloud, and the rays emanate from it, and you see the cow twitching. And when it's over, everyone runs to the field to see, and there is nothing, no blood, but the cow's body has a cut. It's like with a laser. They took out her organs and drew blood for her. If they told me that, I would say, sorry, this is a show. But MIT professors and leading researchers have seen and confirmed it, and everyone's shocked. So listen, you have to at least check. Why does Robert Bigelow himself not tell about it? He received huge funding from NASA as part of programs that my friends from there are just mumbling about under his nose, and he promised in writing that everything goes to the Pentagon and is housed there. It annoys him that the Ministry of Defense is not willing to take anything out. Agreement between the aliens and the United States. Well, we'll have to stop here for a moment, because we're just getting started, and later Professor ESHED may say even more far-reaching things, so it's worthwhile to take a look here and now at, let's say, his speed of connection at his age. Well, it's absolute. In fact, ESHED looks much younger and more energetic than his age. His study is full with books, letters of appreciation, and especially countless folders in which he meticulously stores every single article on his business, including, for the past decade, aliens. And he talks about the subject with the same gleam in his eyes that Richard Dreyfuss runs throughout Spielberg's third-type encounters. In fact, ESHED is currently a kind of Israeli Dreyfuss traveling against the direction of traffic on the way to a meeting he knows is about to take place at the foot of a mountain whose shape he unknowingly sculpted in his pile of mashed potatoes. The amounts of material and information that ESHED has accumulated on the subject, along with his almost childish enthusiasm, often cause him to zigzag between different matters and issues in a pattern quite similar to that of an average UFO: rapid changes of direction, far-reaching accelerations, a form that takes time to stabilize. His determination, even when it goes against what seems reasonable logic or the perceptions of the mainstream academy, as he calls it, accumulates throughout the conversation and becomes, at some point, compelling. His new book, The Universe Beyond the Horizon, published by Yedioth Ahronoth, co-authored by author Hagar Yanai, and serves as a kind of biography that tells the story of his life, devotes all his last and extensive part to apology, researching aliens and hundreds of findings and testimonies collected in the field to date. The materials are serious and authoritative, and do not include explicit references to Aleph or Mork from Orkstar. You quickly read these pages in the book and find yourself mumbling at the end, against your good judgment, heck, they're here. If I had come up with what I tell you today 5 years ago, I would have been hospitalized, ESHED knows. Everywhere I went to the academy to this day, they threw me out. Even though I was a star in other fields, when I got there they said, the guy went crazy. Niuski. Are you not risking academically when you are interviewed on the subject now? I have nothing to lose today. I have received my degrees and awards, I am honored at universities abroad, and even there the trend is changing and willing to talk about it, even if in many places still say, listen, make sure the elephant in the room stays in the room, and do not quote us. Where such things are being said. American presidents also testified to that. Truman admitted to seeing a whole bunch of aliens over Washington. Nixon, who was a friend of comedian Jackie Gleason and knew he was crazy about UFOs, told him, I'm going to make your life's dream come true, and took him to base White Patterson and showed him the bodies of aliens. Gleason went into depression from that. Eisenhower's granddaughter testifies that her grandfather signed an agreement with the aliens, that they would have a secret landing base here in Area 51 in Nevada, that they could come into contact with a limited number of people, conduct experiments, and that the condition was that they provide us with technologies for the object to disengage from gravity, RS. And we got these technologies? Yes. We have anti-gravity and other things. So why are they hiding from us, and how can governments and armies in the world be able to cooperate in concealment of this magnitude? Not all the governments of the world. There is a group of partners, the Americans, the Russians, the Japanese, the English, and the Chinese, all coordinated at a level where it is still forbidden to publish, and those who asked not to publish are them. Who are they? The Galactic Federation. Is there such a thing? It exists. I wrote about it even though it was perceived as a conspiracy theory, but lately former senior generals are also saying to publish, and Trump was on the verge of finding out, and a few mainstream professors are also saying, guys, tell. But the aliens in the Federation say, wait, let's first calm down, do not post yet because you will see what is happening to you. You are still fighting each other, you will destroy yourself. Why not come and talk to us directly? Because it will create panic and collapse humanity. What will happen? The markets will collapse, there will be nothing to eat, people will become cannibals, hospitals will be shut down, all dark passions will come out, it may be the end, and they are not interested in it. On the contrary, they follow all the time. And there are a lot of reports about it. After the nuclear events in the world, they monitor all the stations and nuclear weapons bases. I'm willing to give you all the things written, and there were already things they prevented. Know that it's not just luck that the Russians in the Pigs Bay did not use nuclear weapons, the Americans. Someone neutralized it. Without them, I have no doubt that humanity would have destroyed itself. They want to say to humanity, children, calm down. Why not make contact and say explicitly that they are coming in peace? The UFOs have asked not to publish that they are here, humanity is not ready yet. There will be a huge rampage of everyone, and what the Inquisition did to guys like Galileo and Copernicus will return. They want to make us sane first and understand. They waited until today for humanity to evolve and reach a point where we would even understand what space and a spacecraft are. Think, in World War I we did not even have planes, and they do not want mass hysteria here, with the best example being what happened in 1938, with the sketch Orson Welles' World War I, and the police collapsed and everything exploded in the streets. And what they say is, first of all, let's stand, that the stock markets will not fall, that there will be no rampage, that humanity will calm down a little. Are we in communication with them regarding the date of disclosure? There is an agreement between the US government and aliens. I cannot prove it. I understand it sounds like a conspiracy theory, but the understanding is that the Galactic Federation has 9 elements of advanced aliens of various kinds, who signed a contract with us to do experiments here. What interest do they have in us? There are all the resources here. There is water here in quantities that are nowhere else, there is all kinds of vegetation, all kinds of animals, the ocean. But as intelligence developed from us, what are we useful to them? We are their petri dish. They too are researching and trying to understand the whole fabric of the universe, and they want us as helpers. To this day the petri dish has not been stabilized, but it is estimated that we are reaching this stage. Religion accepts their existence, the Vatican has already announced it wants to baptize them, the UN has appointed an ambassador for foreign affairs, Malan Othman, R.S. The corona calmed everything and brought us closer to them. Come on, in the present age there is no way such a thing would have been kept secret. How many years have you kept the fact that the Earth is not the center of the universe a secret? 1,500 years. Or the Manhattan Plan, U.S. atomic bomb project, do you know how many people worked there? 150,000 people. How many knew what it was? 3. So if you want to keep such a thing a secret, you can. And there is a terrible, obsessive system of silence, of the Americans, who have decided, under the guidance of the aliens, who are not yet publishing. Robert Bigelow also said, I cannot publish the films. Why, will they kill him? Yes. Killed a lot along the way. Everyone who opened their mouths. Aliens and astronauts on Mars. You understand that the discussion with ESHED slides almost at any given time into the expected pattern in which you try to stop a person's speech from being upset with a story that requires at least some degree of skepticism. In front of all your yes, but there are 10 more seemingly obvious proofs in the form of articles, quotes, opinions and gut feelings that feel solid. It's still a fascinating discussion, mainly because it's ESHED, someone who's fully aware of the conspiratorial ringing, coming from the overlap, of the whole business, and yet he insists there are things, probably flying, which are very much real. Throughout most of his years, ESHED actually clung to the here and now. The new book tells the story of a child who immigrated with his parents from Istanbul in the difficult 1940s to the border between the Maghrabi neighborhood and Tikva in Tel Aviv, categorized in elementary school as a stereotypical and hopeless product of the neighborhood, paved for a vocational school and accepted, still without a matriculation certificate. In the Faculty of Building and then in Electrical Engineering. The sequel already included a doctorate in Aeronautical Engineering, development of technological infrastructure and weapons for the Intelligence Division, and a professional look, when following the peace agreement with Egypt and the halting of the possibility of freely photographing what was happening in Sinai, ESHED came up with the unlikely idea of launching a satellite. Opposition was sweeping, but 9 years and about $200 million later, Afek 1 was launched, making Israel the 7th country in the world with the ability to develop and launch satellites. ESHED spent the next 29 years in Israel's security space program, and after his official retirement he continued to develop a science curriculum for middle schools, including the actual launch of tiny box satellites by students. Then, roughly, the aliens began to enter into the routine of his peaceful life, or as he immediately clarifies at the beginning of the conversation, space for me is an obsession. When an ordinary person looks at the sky at night he sees darkness and some stars. I see amazing things there all the time. Stars that form, things that accumulate. Listen, space is Times Square on July 4th. Space is a carnival. ESHED believes wholeheartedly in bringing the alien, though he personally admits he has never seen an UFO. I think it's very close. Next year NASA will launch the James Webb Telescope, which will replace the Tarantula Hubble, and it will detect real, life signals. How many life forms are there in space? There are thousands of stars with conditions similar enough to ours, and serious scientists have identified and documented dozens of life forms, even though the mainstream does not accept it. The closest to us are what we call grays, which are gray creatures with large eyes with them. Where are they geographically close to us? Suppose some of them came from the Pleiades, planets that have living conditions we know about. We can't get there, but they can get to us because they are much more advanced. Where else in the neighborhood is there life? There is an underground base in the depths of Mars, and there are their representatives and also our American astronauts. How do we know that? Do you want articles? There are. But science, until now, does not want to hear. What do their aircraft look like? The large spacecraft is almost the size of a small town. Small spacecraft emerge from it, most of them robotic, manned by intelligent robots. At first they will send such robots, primitive to them, or a message we will have to decipher. To reach us they need to move at least at the speed of light. What is their propulsion method? Rocket? Nuclear? No. They have a method of making a bubble that neutralizes time-space, and the tool does not move, space moves, and this is consistent with general relativity. Take for example an ant that wants to get from one page to the other. Now let's say I folded the page in two, it moves to the other side in a second. That's how you fold time-space as well. What do they use to move time-space? It's a bit of a complex physics. Propulsion is based on dark energy. 25% of the universe is dark matter, which allows time-space to be distorted and reach other galaxies in no time. You can create a tiny black hole. That's what we do in Switzerland. It's technologies that sound like science fiction but are almost there. And what will happen when they come to us? Humanity will connect to the fabric of the universe, and once we connect, our science will leap in thousands of years. We will be capable of anti-gravity, we will move between star systems, religion will lose the control it has today. Aliens do not believe in religion, they believe in deciphering the fabric of the universe, which is not God, it's math. Say, why are they always described as relatively short creatures, with a long neck and a large head? This is exactly the way the immediate human imagination will see them. No. They have all kinds of shapes, they are a function of the star around which they cluster, and some of them can make shape shifting. Is it biologically reasonable? Yes. Here is an example that you will understand immediately. ESHED points to the heavy wooden table between us. It's a table, yes? It's made of atoms. And if the nucleus of the atom is here on the table, do you know where its electron is? Maybe in Rosh Pina, maybe in the middle of nothing. It's quantum theory, the material is empty. But you and I do not know how to turn this table into something else now. But we too are energy. Even when we die we do not die, because we are made of molecules and atoms, and we move to another energy. You connect back to the cosmic fabric, to the web, to the connection of consciousnesses. You are consciousness. She's going to die with me, isn't she? No, forget it. The consciousnesses will not die. Everything you have accumulated is added. It goes to the same network, and everything you have accumulated in your life, the personality, the total of what you have gone through, it accumulates. Stephen Hawking also understood that our consciousness adds to the fabric of the universe. We are building blocks. A phase on the way. Biologists will tell you nonsense, it's all chemical and electrical activity in the brain. Bring me proof. Do you know that this is the biggest debate in science, consciousness? They have not summed it up, and there are phenomena that cannot be explained by electrical activity in the brain. Humanity will not survive here. I admit that by this point in the discussion I had already moved all my chips, he means from the casino, to ESHED's side. I'm with him in this gamble. I'm ready and willing, when the day comes, to reconnect my mind to the general fabric, save me a spot next to Jerry Seinfeld's consciousness, and I'm anxiously awaiting, along with ESHED, the official announcement of continued engagement with the aliens. It's unlikely to come through. A special announcement by the Prime Minister that ESHED believes that Netanyahu is not in the know. Most countries are isolated from it, he says. And better this way. It's too easy, certainly as the last paragraph suggests, to dismiss most of this conversation as somewhat delusional, but ESHED is still the one who has accumulated reliable and impressive enough mileage in his life. From service with the rookie Netanyahu, I can tell you things that will bring you down, to conversations with Elon Musk, he's a genius. Sit with him, you might feel a little like with me, he's a little crazy like that, but he lives things, and his company, SpaceX, connected to the issue of aliens, ESHED made sure to stay, specifically in his business, with both feet on the ground. I'm not a space scientist, I'm a space technologist, he explains. Not that he would not pay any amount to go on an out-of-atmosphere expedition. In fact, he says, he was among the candidates to be the first Israeli astronaut, but Ilan Ramon was finally chosen, and he was supposed to replace me after his return as head of the security space program, and allow me to return to academia. In retrospect, you're probably glad you did not fly. No, I'm very disappointed. Listen, humanity will not survive here, and if someone does not take care of the environment, I will give us less than 50 years. Humanity will die. I hope they, ESHED pointing towards the ceiling, will not let that happen. To know where we came from and where we are going. But in space tourism you are simply raised to a height of 100 kilometers and then you return. What else is there to do there? Your consciousness changes. If you go out into space you come back different. Your picture is different. Ask any astronaut who has been there. Are you jealous of Itan Steve? He's a wonderful guy, and what happened is that they took and soiled it in a bibistic way. He came up with it and said, I want it and I'm willing to pay. There were already 5 billionaires of Americans before him who went out. He just wanted to have the experience. My heart ached. Is space tourism at all a scientific matter? No, it will end up as a hobby for the rich. What is really interesting is the asteroid mining, which has expensive materials in huge quantities, gold and platinum that have already sunk to the center of the globe, and the asteroids are still on the surface. And cut what you want. And Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos are already planning it. It will be a new gold rush. What else will happen in the next decade? I estimate that quantum computers will reach a level that will exceed human capacity in terms of consciousness. It will be superconscious. They will be smarter than us and much more significant than what is now. And the ability of the computer will advance the human consciousness. We will stop with all the pettiness. And Miri Regev, I don't know what he exactly means mentioning this name. She was or still is in the Knesset, and look forward, where we want to advance. If you understand that your consciousness is building the array of the universe, you will say, what should I quarrel with? I contribute my share, progress. In the end I am part of the fabric. I believe that humanity will stop dealing with pettiness and rise in level. 10 years from now, we will see a different consciousness. At the moment, things seem to be going in the opposite direction, with the polarizing social networks and everything. It's momentary. It's like a petri dish that has problems that need to be neutralized. Science needs to be given a chance to work. Today the only thing that keeps us sane is science. He himself continues to research, advise, and work with the Science Center in HYSTERIA, which transfers the science program to middle schools in 6 centers in the periphery. His eldest daughter became religious. In the middle of her doctorate, he sadly announces, the middle son is a startupist, and the youngest daughter, now 39, works in Philadelphia as a capital market analyst. This state of affairs has left ESHED, along the corona, devoid of grandchildren visits, and is not accustomed to this kind of disconnect. Married for the 3rd time, the children from his first wife, ESHED finds himself, more than once, Mrs., but he believes that here too, science is on the way to salvation. Quantum theory says you can be here and there, and you know what Einstein said about quantum theory? Which is the dumbest thing that can happen, but it works, he says. And that also means we can maneuver in space-time, and while I sit with you here, I can also sit with my daughter in Philadelphia. The granddaughters keep asking where grandpa is, and that will allow us to be there, really there, not with alternative reality helmets. And you can embrace your daughter even if she is in another country. Professor Michio Kaku, Japanese-American physicist, one of the founders of string theory, said, we will be able to jump 400 years forward like a frog. Think about what has only happened in the last 50 years, how many years has there been an internet? Cellular? Now think in terms of a 400-year leap. Ronan Shaked. April 12, 2020. End of the transcript.